All right. Should we move
Cool.
on to this new
Yeah.
feature?
Hills to die on. So you're gonna
Yes.
have to tell me what this is. I
This is
don't know.
ADOT's idea. Okay.
Okay.
I was asking ADOT to brainstorm new features for the show. And
Okay.
she said, how about if you guys discuss and debate unpopular opinions that you feel so strongly about, you'd be willing to die on that hill? They can be LSAT related or non-LSAT related. And that's ADOT suggesting a new feature for the show. So if this catches, thank you, Annalisa. This I think is a brilliant idea. I had like a million ideas immediately. I had a ton of different ideas for this feature. But we already discussed one of them. The one hill that I would like to die on, it's a kind of a controversial or unpopular opinion about the LSAT.
Mm.
Definitely do not read the question stem first on logical reasoning. I'll go down with the ship on that one. That's something that, it's the exact opposite of what Kaplan teaches, Princeton teaches,
Mm-hmm.
LSAT trainer, blueprint, you name it. Like there's, it's a whole bunch of it's like the cardinals of the of the LSAT that are out there, just no, this is the established doctrine
Sure.
that you have to read the
Yeah.
question stem first on logical reasoning. And I will for sure die on that hill that is totally wrong. Do you have any other LSAT related ones? I think maybe for this first show, we'll just do only LSAT related
Sure.
ones.
That's fine. I'd love to add some, but can we unpack the metaphor for like a half second? So
Cardinals?
the hill is the thing that you
Oh,
are like, yeah.
yeah, it's like if you're in war and you're gonna
Yeah.
like your final stand is like
That
this is
hill.
the
I'm not
hill.
gonna
Like
let
we
that
can't
hill go.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha.
precisely. Yeah.
Okay.
So hills to die on. What do you got a hill to die on?
Yes. Well, okay. So things I'm thoroughly committed to would be you have to understand the sentences. This is what we were just talking about, and the passage as a whole before you go into the questions. And I feel like that hill is in all three sections: games, logical reasoning, and reading comp. I think it comes up most frequently in reading comp where people are like, hey, how can I go faster? How can I do better? How can I get through this? And I'm like, hey, I spend 3 to 5 minutes on a passage, and I know tons of people who spend 1 to 2. I am not going to leave that passage. I will die on that hill because I don't want to answer questions until I own the passage. It's the same feeling that I have in games. I'm not going to jot down a couple rules and then run into the questions. I'd feel like shit. And same with logical reasoning.
Yeah, like there's a rule that's confusing. You're like, oh, I'm not sure exactly what they mean by
Oh,
that. Let me just go ahead and try to answer the questions now. That
oh my
is
God.
not the right way to do it.
No.
Yeah, that's a good one. I could go on all day with these. Uh, I would like to die on the hill that the LSAT, and I already said this earlier too, the LSAT makes perfect fucking sense.
Oh yeah,
I get
sure.
students in class who are like, and I feel for them, they're struggling with it. And they think the LSAT is so mysterious and so confusing and so difficult. They just think it's impossible, and they think that, oh no, there's three good answers to this question. This is a really hard one because there's so many good wrong answers. And by the time I'm done explaining the question, I'm like, I'm sorry, but those two other answers that you thought were good are absolute trash. They make no sense. They are not answering the question. The one answer that is the correct answer is it makes perfect sense. It's actually easy. Once you read it carefully enough, once you really understand what the sentences say in the argument, once you understand what the question is asking, and that's just a matter of slowing down and reading it carefully. Once you understand what the correct answer says, you will see that the correct answer perfectly answers the question that they're asking, and it makes perfect sense, and the LSAT is easy. And that's something that I don't think Kaplan believes that. The way the methods that they teach indicate to me that they don't think the LSAT is actually easy. And that's why they suck so bad at LSAT. I mean, they are just complete trash, like telling you to pick and choose which question types to do on logical reasoning because some of them are easier and some of them are harder. Like skip around and pick the ones that make sense to you. Skip around in the games and only do the ones that make sense to you. That is such bullshit. And, they've planted a flag in like oh, the LSAT's really hard and you should, oh, you're not going to be able to understand all of it. So, you should skip around and pick and choose the stuff that makes sense. I'm here to tell you that it all makes perfect sense.
I'll back you up on that one with making sense. I would say that the two most common scenarios where I'm arguing with someone about an answer choice, right? It's usually in logical reasoning, because in games, these things are settled with just a little more clarity.
Yep.
And in reading comp, it's settled with a little more clarity too. You're like, look, did you see line 7? Okay, game over.
Yep.
It's in logical reasoning. And the two scenarios that come to my mind are where someone is debating between two answer choices. They think that the wrong one is better, and they have their whole like spiel. And I'm like, look, the correct answer makes an assumption. The answer you like makes an assumption. Let's make those assumptions explicit and then decide which one is a more reasonable assumption. And almost universally, when that becomes explicit, they're like, oh yeah, my assumption for my answer choice is less reasonable, far less reasonable than the assumption that the correct answer is making. But what happened was they saw the assumption that the correct answer is making, and they didn't see the assumption that they're making for their answer choice.
Right.
And so then they're like, I just don't understand. I hate this. It's so subjective. The other scenario is where their answer choice requires two assumptions and the correct answer requires only one. And again, they're focusing on that and they're not seeing how they actually have to like make two leaps to get to their answer. And you're like, do you see that? And once you see that again, you're like, oh, this makes perfect sense. And these questions have all been vetted. So you're fighting an uphill battle if you want to
Nice.
go for those other answers. You just don't see it yet.
Yeah. That's happens a lot when people do the test passively and they're like trying to make the answer choices right.
Yeah.
It's real if they're reading the answer choices hoping that answer is right instead of expecting that answer to be wrong. I'm looking for reasons why each answer is wrong, and the one I can't get rid of is the answer. They do it the other way around. They're hoping A is the answer and they're trying to make a case for A. And then they just, because they're trying to make it work, they miss the problems that it has. So then they get stuck on and perseverate on that answer. I have a million of these. Can we do one more hill to die on? We can save other ones for future shows, but
sure.
I would die on the hill. And I think that this is an unpopular opinion that I think the Law School Admission Council would disagree with. Most people shouldn't finish the sections in 35 minutes.
Yeah.
They stupidly think that people should. That's why they give accommodated students way too much extra time. And they're all proud of the fact that the accommodated students finish the sections. Meanwhile, I'm telling people who are scoring 160 not to finish the sections. I'm telling people who are scoring 165 even, don't finish the sections, slow down. You're making too many mistakes on the easy ones. You got to slow down. And I don't care if you don't finish, you can leave a few unanswered at the end, just randomly guess on them and you'll score higher. But most LSAT dogma, I keep coming back to that word, but most of the establishment in the LSAT world seem to think that you're supposed to finish the sections in 35 minutes. And yeah, if you're going to score 175, then yeah. But to get to 150 or 160 or even 170, you don't need to finish any of the sections. And that's definitely a hill that I would die on.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, ADOT, for suggesting an awesome new feature for the show.